Good evening, traders. Good evening, account builders, and good evening, everyone in between. It's Ant-Man here. I'm going to go over a few stocks that I've got on my preliminary watch list that I'm going to be potentially watching for the morning. I will definitely be reevaluating these plays tomorrow as the gappers happen, and we'll see what's hot and what's not. So, with that said, let's get right into it. First up on my list here is our good old friend PCG. They are back in the news. Let me pull up the headline to show you what was coming up here. First, we had this article here. PG&E reportedly planning bankruptcy announcement to workers as soon as Monday. Then there was this article here, pretty much the same headline. PG&E in talks with banks about multi-billion-dollar bankruptcy financing, and these came up here on the wire on the 13th at midday. So that would have been Sunday midday. And later on, I was alerted to some other information by Jonathan in the room. Thank you for that. That the PG&E CEO will be stepping down amid all this controversy and all the liability that is being put on them, to the tune of some $30 billion worth of liability for the California wildfires that happened back in November. From what I've read and what I understand, and a few people that I know that live out there that I spoke to that have dealt with PCG and used them, it's all hearsay. I'm just going off what I heard, that they actually are relatively negligent in this situation. So all these things coming together are not looking good at all for PCG. So what I'm looking at on the daily chart here is this downtrend. It looks like it's starting to form a downtrend on the daily chart, and depending on where the market gaps, last I checked, the futures were gapping down. So unless they find some support and rally, we probably are going to have some sort of gap down tomorrow morning. But like I said, I really don't know where the futures... Actually, you know what? I can go right here. It says right in front of me. Right now we're down almost 20 points on the futures, so we still are, in fact, if I just go to an intraday chart real quick, we are in fact still gapping down. Looks like it's found a little bit of support, put in a nice double bottom here. It's not to say that this will fail or not, but definitely had a nice sell-off, put in double bottom. So let's see what happens come the morning. Right now it looks like it's holding support, may want to try and come up. But as it stands right now, we are gapping down. So with that being said... what I will be looking at, if this does gap down, right now the price is somewhere around here. This gaps down, I want to see what happens at the 1726 level. This is a narrow range candle. I also have highs and lows marked. Should have this here marked in red because it is overhead, it is resistance. So I want to see what it does in and around the 1726 level. Does this hold and ramp back up? That is what was the tendency these past few days. It would sell off to a support level, hold, and then ramp back up, and then fade away for the remainder of the day. So it's kind of what I'm probably looking for on this. In any event, I do want some type of short entry on this. I am not looking at a long at all on this with all the negative news. And the big question on PCG is this newer news, this newer data, is this baked into the price? Is it relevant for a trade this week? Or is this not baked into the price, and will this incite panic in investors come this week, come tomorrow, and the rest of the days of this week? And the way that I'm going to judge that is by tomorrow morning's relative volume. If the volume tomorrow morning is elevated, that's going to tell me that there's a little bit of panic, maybe, especially if it's a lot of selling volume and this thing does sell off in the pre-market. That's going to tell me that the information was not baked in, and there's going to be a new round of panic and hopefully some selling. If there is low volume or relatively low volume in the pre-market, that's going to indicate to me that the news is probably baked in. In any event, I'm definitely going to keep this on watch. I'm going to see what happens, see if there's any new developments, any new headlines that come out. But the two areas that I will be keeping an eye on, depending where it gaps to and what happens, as like I said, is 1726. And I really like this 1796 level. It's right at the 18-hole number, and it intersects, well, it's pretty, not as intersected, this is actually would be Tuesday, but it's pretty close to this downtrend. So this would be, this little area here, this 1790 to 1810, 1820 area, is a really nice area for a rejection if this should ramp up and come into this area. So just a couple ideas on PCG. I'm going to be keeping my eye on this, see what happens with it. I would love for it to start, coming down slowly. Each day it's putting a lower high and a lower low, and we'll just see it kind of step its way down. Once it gets to the 1672, whether it be tomorrow or Tuesday or later in the week, once this 1672 area does let go, there's almost a point on the table here, 94 cents a share. There's nothing here from these lows here down to here. There's nothing to hold it. And then once this 1578, if this should let go, there's nothing for decades to hold this support. I said decades. There's nothing since I believe the mid or late 80s at this under this price range. So if this does let go, PCG has the potential to really fall apart. I think it could be a really nice play if this does let go. Even if it doesn't, there's still potential for anywhere from, I say, 65, 70 cents to upwards of $1 on a $18 stock. That's a very nice play intraday. So next one I have on here is UFS. What I noticed on UFS is this huge run-up with only one small red candle. And I noticed the area that it's running up into. It's got this 44.72 level on the daily chart, which is really close to a $45 whole number. And also really close, almost intersecting with this downtrend on the daily chart. So if this thing can push up into this area, I'd like to see some topping and an opportunity to get in short, maybe on a double top or a lower high. If this area should break, we have the 100 and the 200 SMA close by to act as a higher level of resistance should this break. So we'll see what happens in the morning with this. This is probably going to be a side watch, especially if this does gap down. It kind of ruins the plan. So this is more if it opens flat or if there's a slight gap up. If there was a big gap up to this area, it kind of would ruin the plan. I might watch this area here, but for this to work, I kind of want a flat open or just a very small gap up or down, and that would be ideal for this particular play. So not a main watch, just something that I happened to see as I was thumbing through charts this weekend. Might be interesting. Netflix it's been a beast. It's up tremendously. It does have earnings on Thursday, so I will definitely be interested on Thursday to see what it does into earnings. Will it ramp into earnings? Will it sell into earnings? Is all this movement here? Is this the big boys pushing the stock up, pumping it up, so that they can take profit on earnings? It's a logical theory. Who really knows what's going on with this? But I definitely will be keeping my eye on this week, every day this week up until earnings, and even possibly Friday too, the day after earnings. Maybe a nice sell day. We'll see what happens with it. Even if this, whether it beats or not, I think it's gonna sell because of some profit taking. And even if it does miss, that's gonna ensue some panic selling as well, and profit taking. So either way, no matter what happens on the earnings, I do feel this is going to sell off Thursday after hours and into Friday. But I will be watching this anyway. It's right around the 200 SMA. And after that, there really isn't anything above it as any kind of chart resistance other than the 350 and other whole numbers, but 350 being a nice round whole number. That would be a place of interest that I would keep my eye on to see if this does ramp. That's 13 points away from where it is now. That's definitely not an impossibility for Netflix. It can definitely move 13 points in one day. Logic would say that it's hard to believe that this could keep going, but then again, when you least expect the stock to go another 10, 15 points, that's just what it does. So 350 will be an area I will be watching, as well as Friday's highs and lows and this 200. Really tough to formulate a plan at this point. I want to see what it does in the morning, where it is, and I will, have a better idea if I'm going to include it on my final watch or not. But it's definitely a stock of interest. Definitely something that, as the week progresses, I will probably be more interested in. Especially, like I said, on Thursday, I will probably have it as a main watch, and Friday as well. But up until then, I'm just going to watch it and see what happens and react and respond to price action. Next up is our good buddy Apple. You can see Apple had this on all the negative China news. They had this huge sell-off here. And I like how the chart looks. Pat did point out a very good point that this is kind of doing what NVIDIA did right before NVIDIA just started trading like an absolute dog. And I will definitely keep that in mind. But what caught my eye is the chart pattern. I do like the look of this. It does have a nice rollover look to it. Plus, it broke this trend here. I really like the way this thing looks. What I do see on a longer time frame here is a huge sell-off and a weak bounce. If we zoom in, what I'm seeing, like I said, we have this nice trend it's been following, and Friday was the first day it broke under trend. So it is a narrow range candle. I will be watching highs and lows naturally, and depending what happens in the morning in the pre-market, if the high or the low from Friday should break, this 150.86 and this 150.455 are very near to these high and low levels. That I will also be watching these levels too to see what happens with Apple. And the last one that I will be highlighting here is Dollar General. And what I'm looking at here on Dollar General, it's also kind of getting extended. We had a couple small red days in Dollar General, but it did have this big run up, so it is a little bit extended. It's above all the moving averages. What I'm seeing here is a possible double top or a possible lower high setting in. If I pull out here, what I'm kind of seeing, one second, is something like this forming. You have this M shape possibly forming on the daily chart here on Dollar General. So with that said, it's really hard to really pick a level right now. Tomorrow morning, what I will be watching is where this gaps to, and then when it opens the high of this candle from Friday. And I will also be keeping an eye on the high from the chart over here from November. This high here, if it makes a true double top, or if this does top out and makes a lower high. This could easily just consolidate at highs for a couple days and ramp, depending on what the market does. But as far as the look of the chart, it looks really nice for a short if this double top lower high does hold. So also probably not a main watch. I'll probably have this up on a side chart as well, but it's just a nice looking chart setup that caught my eye as I was flipping through charts this weekend. So that's all I have for you on this. If you guys have any questions, any comments, as always, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. You can always hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @TheTonyManji, and any Trick Trades members, feel free to DM me. My DM's always open to you guys. Yeah, I think that's what I got for you. So Just running through thoughts in my head real quick, guys. It's getting a little late. But yeah, I think that's it. So happy trading, good luck, and trade safe. And I'll talk to you guys on the flip flop. Take care. Ciao.